TFW, the professor catches you in the same bed because you were crying together late at night. Written by Ami Pasta. Read by Arashi. A soft and gentle knock at her door. Hilda, at first, was going to ignore it, but only one person she knew knocked so carefully, and as Hilda had sadly come to accept, she can't ignore Marianne, even if she wanted to. "Marianne!" Hilda exclaimed after first opening the door. Her face fell upon seeing her friend, however. Marianne's hair was messier than usual, her cheeks red. Hilda couldn't see her eyes, but she guessed they were red, too. "Oh, what's wrong?" It's nothing." Marianne turned her head away. I shouldn't have come here. I shouldn't have come here. I'm sorry for bothering you." Hilda cared deeply for Marianne, but that didn't mean she wasn't occasionally frustrating. Hilda decided to gently grasp the other girl's wrist, not saying a word. Carefully, Hilda pulled Marianne to her bed and sat her down. She climbed onto the bed and sat behind her crying friend. Briefly, Hilda wondered if this was too much for her, if Marianne didn't even want to be touched. Before she could voice her concerns, the other girl spoke. Thank you." It was so soft, Hilda wondered if she imagined it, but inch by inch, Marianne leaned back into her, accepting the embrace gratefully. She wasn't ready to speak, to talk about what had upset her, but if there was even something specific, Hilda would be patient. Hilda was not normally patient, but Hilda also didn't fuss over people. She doesn't do things for other people because she wants to. She certainly doesn't hold people into the late hours of the night when she really should be sleeping, although Claude would testify otherwise. Of course, Marianne has Hilda breaking every single one of those rules. Marianne certainly didn't force her pink-haired classmate. The poor girl probably couldn't if she wanted to. But Marianne is Marianne, and Hilda is immeasurably soft for her, because Marianne is kind and talks to birds. And how could anyone see her as a monster? At first, Hilda thought that no one other than Marianne did. But people talk when they shouldn't, and Hilda wants to lecture every single one of them on how impossibly incorrect they are. Therein lies Hilda's problem. She wants to. Hilda wants to go shopping with Marianne just to be there for her and to hold her late at night just so Marianne could sleep a little better. And then, goddess above, Hilda does. Hilda does go out of her way to clean because Marianne looks stressed. So now she has Foldland's sweetest and cutest girl in her arms at who knows what hour because she's in love with her best friend. "Hilda?" Marianne shifts a little, maybe trying to look at her. Hilda refocuses on what's happening now, instead of what she already knows. "Yes, Mary?" Hilda didn't often use that nickname, knowing Marianne got flustered over it. "Thank you. I know you'd rather be sleeping right now." "Oh, it's okay. I was awake anyway." "Why were you awake?" Well, Hilda walked into that. She could have just said it wasn't a big deal, but her stupid, tired brain had no filter. "I'll tell you if you tell me what's wrong." Maybe that was mean, but it was fair. An eye for an eye, as Claude liked to say. Hilda would mock him so much, and here she was, sounding like him. Okay, I can do that." Marianne resituated herself, briefly asking Hilda if she was comfortable too. "Someone only said something. I'm used to it, really. This one just hurt more, with them bringing up my father. They said my father must think me a disappointment." She breathed out a little laugh. "I think it only hurts so much because I'm positive it's true." Hilda slightly tightened her hold on Marianne. Once she realized she had, she immediately relaxed her arms and took a long breath. "Marianne, I'm going to tell you what I'm positive is true. Anyone who thinks little of you is unworthy of your time, and any father who thinks you're a disappointment never even deserved to have you as his child." "You really think so highly of me?" A small whisper of a thought, asking for honesty. For any truth Hilda was willing to say, "Without a shadow of a doubt." And that may be one of the truest things Hilda has ever told anyone. Marianne turned around and hugged Hilda with surprising strength. Marianne's wisps of hair tickled her face, and Hilda desperately wants to braid it someday. "Hilda, why weren't you asleep?" Ah, darn. Hilda thought she may have gotten out of it, but a promise is a promise. "Believe it or not, something not so different as you. I was wondering how other people saw me." There it was, her biggest fear, her fear of disappointing people, lay right in front of Marianne. "Why would you think about that?" She sounded genuine, as though Marianne could not think of a reason for people to not like Hilda. "It's no secret I'm lazy. I practically show it off. If people don't expect anything from me, I can't disappoint them, right? And even still, I wonder if people just look at me and see missed potential, as someone who can never live up to her brother or her own name." This may be the most Hilda has spoken about it, but she could never lie to Marianne. "I'm sorry you feel that way, though everyone knows how hard you really work." "Marianne, I appreciate the thought, but we both know that's not true. I ditched you so I wouldn't have to clean the library." Hilda didn't want pity. This is an image she purposely made for herself. No, that's not what I mean. I mean the things that matter more, such as taking care of your friends." Marianne was going to speak more, but Hilda interrupted her. "Name one time I went out of my way for someone else, and you don't count." Oh, that sounded much worse out loud. Before Hilda could apologize, Marianne spoke again. "Well, you made that necklace for Raphael's sister. You make sure Claude doesn't get too wrapped up in what he's doing." Sure, that was true, but it hardly mattered at the end of the day. She still never did anything laborious for them. "And everyone knows how capable you are in battle." Hilda opened her mouth to rebuttal. "Please don't. I know I'm not great at determining strong fighters, but Professor Byleth doesn't put you in the front lines for no reason." "There are still people who see me as a waste." Hilda figured she may be right. Marianne was a good judge of character, after all, though Hilda still knew people thought so little of her. "There will always be people who don't pay attention before making their minds up about people." "I'll never be my brother." "No one wants you to be." Marianne hesitated. I don't want you to be." They stopped talking after that. Eventually, they wound up laying against Hilda's pillows, holding each other. The candle had gone out as Hilda had left her window cracked open. Under the blankets, in her room, together they were safe from the thoughts plaguing their mind. Hilda had almost fallen asleep. "Hilda, why don't I count?" She really didn't know what Marianne had meant at the time. She realized what the blue-haired girl was probably talking about the next day and was thoroughly embarrassed. For now, Hilda kissed the top of her forehead. "'Cause you're special." Byleth was never angry when their students missed class. Not that they were angry much at all. Hilda, they kind of expected it from. Marianne occasionally lost time talking with the birds or caring for Dorte. Both of them being late for class was a little odd, however. Byleth knew they were both capable, and they shouldn't be worried. Was this worry? But after Flane's abduction, they'd been more cautious. Byleth checked the stables and asked if Marianne had been there. They only asked one person, not wanting to cause a word if it was simply nothing. The student said no one other than Ferdinand had been there this morning. So that probably meant she was still sleeping. Hilda was trickier to pin down, as she visited a bigger variety of places. Before leaving class for a while, Byleth told them to study for advanced class exams. Maybe it was a little early to study for them, but Byleth had to give the Golden Deer something to do. They stepped back into the classroom, intending to ask Raphael if he had seen Hilda in the dining hall. But that was before seeing Claude's smirk. "Claude, do you know where Hilda is?" Byleth asked in their usual flat tone. Claude leaned back in his seat, as if he had top-secret information. Byleth has killed people for top-secret information before, and yet they're a teacher. The Archbishop should really look through their history better. "Teach, if I had to guess, I'd check Hilda's room." A wink. For both of them. Byleth didn't really get the wink. They knew Claude and Sylvain would go into each other's dorm to play board games. What was the difference? Either way, Byleth wandered to Hilda's room and knocked. No reply. They pressed their ear to the door and heard nothing. Byleth did not want to break the door down. Rhea would be mad, and it would startle their students. Things like that. Byleth stood there for a moment, wondering what to do. "Goddess sakes, I'll check on them." Oh, yes. Sophis did not care about walls. Sophis stuck her head in and came back with a soft smile. Byleth tilted their head, asking for an answer. "They're fine. Just sleeping." Byleth nodded, and the pencil and paper they had at their coat pocket. Without much thought, they wrote out a quick note. "You were asleep, but that's okay," and slipped it under the door.
"Violet, don't! That's so ominous."
They walked back in the direction of the classroom.
"Violet, you can't just leave that there. You're going to scare them half to death."
Violet kept walking.